Hello Insiders! This week we have a sneak peek discussion with Swaroop from the YouTube analytics team, and we're going to talk about where we're taking the product going forward, as well as hopefully get a lot of feedback from you all on some interesting questions that we're discussing with the team. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, yeah, excited to be here.
So, Swaroop, tell me a little bit about what you're working on and some of the stuff that you're thinking about.
Yeah, so I'm a product manager on the analytics team, and right now we're thinking about how do we make the analytics product more powerful for users who are really looking for insights and data. And so maybe what will be useful is I'll start off with a discussion of how we have the product structure we have in Studio today compared to Classic. So what used to happen in Classic is you had a single product for a wide range of users. You could be somebody who started uploading last week, or you could be the most sophisticated user using data to figure out what your next video is, and you had the same product.
Yeah.
And the feedback we got early on was, for the set of users, this is way too complicated. There's lots of charts, and it gets intimidating for them to start understanding what's going on. So the conscious decision we made in Studio was that we should have a simpler interface that gives you all the key metrics, that's glanceable. But for the real data nerd, there we can send them into a separate product, which internally we call as Deep Dive. So any of the see more links that you see, that lands you into Deep Dive. And Deep Dive, you get a lot more flexibility for the questions you want to answer.
Right. So if you are a new creator or a creator that isn't super into slicing and dicing, then the cards as displayed across the top get you what you need.
That's right.
And then if you want more, then when you click on any of those see more links, you get this deep dive experience.
Right.
And the idea was that was going to give you a lot more power.
Right. So as we look at usage on, so the first thing was this was a new, we did change the product as well. Like Classic had a different layout. There were reports on the left side, and then you had charts on the right side. And one of the feedback we got from users was that it took a lot of learning to figure out what the charts on the left side were. And it was not flexible enough where if they wanted to change the table data, they couldn't do that. If they wanted any dimension they wanted, they couldn't do that. So the change we made in Deep Dive is actually to allow that flexibility, where typically creators start with a question. Okay, so which videos am I losing the most subs on? That's your question.
Right.
And so we say, okay, select your metric. And then you say, how do you want to break that down? Okay, you're losing these many subscribers over time. And then you say, yeah, I want to know how that breaks down by video. Which videos am I losing subscribers on? And so you select what's called a dimension, which is basically a breakdown of how you want to understand that metric. So you'll see a video breakdown. And so you'll be able to see, okay, these videos, I'm losing subscribers. And then you have an informed action that, okay, maybe these topics are not so much that my subscribers are looking for, versus you can look at the opposite as well. So that flexibility is there in the new Studio. So we've made a bunch of other changes as well, which based on feedback, we have improved what's called the entity picker. So you can change. So basically Deep Dive is its own application. If you want to look at the channel or a video or a group, that's instantly changeable without having to go back to the overall Studio. So we made that change. We are in the process of adding 2-metric charting, which by demand has been one of the top features. So that should be rolled out very soon. We have enabled playlists in Analytics, which is also a long request. So that's already in there as well, recently launched. Comparisons is another feature. Where typically what you would like to do is, let's say you want to look at views in the last month versus the same period last year. So now we've enabled that with just a single click. So you're going to go, you set up your chart, you say, okay, how does this look last year? And then instantly it shows you, okay, how your views were doing last year. So all of those changes we've made. And then what we're looking for right now are, as users who are looking to use what we call as a deep dive, what are the pain points that they have compared to Classic, especially in what they experience in deep dive. What features do they miss? So for example, one of the things that we have not enabled on Studio is the ability to see rolling days. So what you could do on Classic was you can actually change the aggregation to daily, weekly, monthly, but also rolling, which is, let's say you want to understand 7-day average or 30-day average. That's something that we have removed from Studio because we felt that the daily and weekly average, daily weekly totals do the same thing. You should be able to see the trend, and we avoid the complexity of adding much more data, improved latency from making that decision. So that's one example of things that we haven't brought over to Studio, but that's also feedback. Things like that, if there are other features that they're missing, we would love to know which ones they miss most, but also more importantly, why they use that and why the workarounds don't work as well. And that will help really our team to say, okay, these creators are asking for these 4 features or these 5 features. This is the number of creators that are asking for it and the reason why. And if we are looking to prioritize like next year's roadmap, that's something that we can take into account to fix as well.
Now, the one trade-off that we should also acknowledge is that for every feature we bring from Classic Analytics to Studio Analytics, it's going to be time away from completely new things that we could have added. So as an example, when you were talking about what videos are causing me to lose subscribers, like I would personally prefer just a card that was always there in the audience tab saying, you know, videos that have caused you to lose subscribers, and then another card saying videos that helped you gain subscribers. And in some ways, I only go to the deep dive as a last resort, but you wouldn't be able to help us work on those cards if you're adding like the date range picker improvement, right? So there's a trade-off there, and I think part of the thing we're trying to figure out is how can we get the most benefit to creators? Is it bringing over every last Classic feature in analytics? Or is it introducing new analytics features that never existed in Classic that might have, you know, potentially even a bigger impact? Like for me, I'm yearning for the day where we have a card that helps me show the best performing thumbnails and titles based on click-through rate. That's not easy to do today in analytics. You can do it, I bet, in deep dive, but then I have to go to deep dive. I gotta click the round circle and do all this stuff. And so, but that's a common tension that we have, right?
That's right. Yeah, and the more things we add to a screen, it's not so much just the engineering to build it. When we start adding things to a screen, we have to also think about latency. So if you had a full chart, that means more data has to come to the screen. That means adds more latency.
And latency, so, you mean the time it takes for the page to load, right?
Yes. So it's not trivial or not easy to just think, okay, it's an extra chart, because that chart has to load for every single user for all the data that they select. So it adds a lot of time to bring these charting features, which takes away time for us to build a card, for example.
Any other things that you're curious about, Swaroop, that you want to get the Insider Nation's feedback on?
I think one feedback would be overall, would be good to know how many of our subscribers or viewers actually go into the deep dive, and why are they going there? Which cards are they missing? For example, are they looking for the same kind of stuff every time? And so if so, let us know, and then that could help us build a card so that you don't have to keep going into the deep dive. So that's one thing. And maybe another thing I would love to know is, because the experience is new, how many of them find it hard to learn? So we do have a couple of videos on Creator Insider, for example, that teach how to use the deep dive. It is a new interface, but please let us know what are the things that make it hard to use.
So there's an interesting debate in terms of why people use deep dive. I would imagine there's one hypothesis, which is a lot of people are using deep dive to answer a small set of similar questions. If that were the case, then we should just cardify those questions.
That's right.
There's another hypothesis, which is, oh no, they go to deep dive for a unlimited range of questions that are all different, and we'll never be able to predict it. Thus, like, you just should make deep dive as powerful as possible.
That's right.
I suspect, obviously, there's probably both.
Sure.
But I wonder if there's some common deep dive analyses that a lot of people are doing that we could templatize and turn into a card.
Definitely.
But maybe you guys can let us know in the comments to Swaroop's question around, like, why do you go to the deep dive if you do? And what questions are you trying to answer? And if we see, like, oh, everybody's looking at, oh, you know, what videos drive the most subscribers, or when are my audience, like, most likely to be, you know, generating views for me. If those are common questions, then we can just probably make cards for them.
That's right.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, Swaroop. Is this your first time on Creator Insider?
This is my first time.
Oh, welcome to the Insider Nation. Let us know what you guys think. The feedback is super valuable. Swaroop, you will be reading all the comments for this video.
Yes, I will personally read all comments. Thank you.
And that will be directly inputted into product strategy discussions with the engineers here at YouTube to help inform our prioritization. So it's super valuable. This is the way for you to influence how YouTube analytics will improve going forward. And thanks in advance for all your feedback. In the meantime, you guys, keep it real.